He said it right there in the mortuary, surrounded by lilies and the hushed murmurs of well-wishers, my own son. He put his hand on my arm, not unkindly but firmly. "Mom," he said, "maybe it's best if you don't say anything at the service, just let us handle it." Let them handle it, as if 47 years of marriage could be handled. Packed away neatly like the silver I polished every Christmas, then stored high on a shelf. As if my grief, my love, my loss was something inconvenient, something to be managed. I didn't argue. What was there to say? The words were already lodged, cold and heavy in my throat, so I sat in the front pew, silent, dressed in the black dress he'd picked out for me. Something simple, Mom, something appropriate. My dress, his words, his service. For his father, the organ droned. The preacher spoke of a life I knew better than anyone, my life woven together with his. But that life, that man, was being eulogized by strangers, by people who knew only fragments. My son spoke well, poised, composed. He thanked everyone for coming. He told stories, funny anecdotes, sporting achievements, business triumphs, my husband reduced to bullet points. My daughter stood beside him, her own grief a carefully applied mask of sorrow. She nodded approvingly at his words. They were a good team, always had been, and I was the aging set dressing, the silent observer. The woman whose presence was required but whose voice was not. After the service, people filed past. They squeezed my hand, offered condolences, empty platitudes. "He was a good man. He's in a better place. You must be so proud." I nodded. I smiled. I thanked them. My smile felt brittle like a thin layer of ice over a deep, dark lake. Back at the house, the wake continued. A sea of faces, plates piled high with food, the clinking of glasses, laughter. The sound of a life being celebrated, or perhaps a life being neatly closed. I sat in my usual chair, the one by the window, watching the guests, watching my children, watching my life drift further and further away. They were busy. Hosting, caring for the guests, making sure everyone had enough to eat and drink. They didn't have time for me, and I understood, truly. Grief is awkward, messy. They wanted to protect me, or perhaps they wanted to protect themselves. From the messy, awkward grief of an old woman, as the evening wore on, the guests thinned. The laughter faded. The plates were cleared. My children began the slow, weary process of cleaning up. I went to bed, to our bed, alone. The silence in the house was deafening. Every tick of the clock, every creak of the floorboards was a sharp reminder of his absence. I closed my eyes, saw his face, heard his voice, remembered his touch. 47 years gone. The days that followed were a blur. The legal proceedings, the paperwork, the sorting through of his belongings, all handled by my children, efficiently, impersonally. They moved me into a smaller bedroom. Easier to manage, Mom. They redecorated, threw out some of my old things. "We don't want you tripping, Mom." My life being managed. Again, I sat in my new room, surrounded by unfamiliar colors, the scent of fresh paint. His absence, a tangible presence. I started baking lemon cakes, his favorite. I baked them slowly, carefully, measuring each ingredient, mixing the batter with a steady hand. The familiar rhythm, a small comfort in the overwhelming chaos of loss. I gave the cakes away, to the neighbors, to the church, to the local shelter. I watched their faces as they tasted them, a flicker of pleasure, a moment of connection. I said nothing. I started going for walks, long, slow walks through the park, watching the leaves change, feeling the sun on my face, listening to the birds. I watched the world continue, indifferent to my grief, indifferent to my loss. And slowly, steadily, something began to shift inside me, a quiet strength. It rose from the depths of my sorrow like a flower pushing through hard-packed earth. I started to remember things I had forgotten, things I had buried, things I had sacrificed, my dreams, my ambitions, my voice. I had spent my life caring for others, for him, for my children. I had nurtured them, supported them, sacrificed for them, and now they were managing me, silencing me, erasing me. I started to make a list of things I wanted to do, things I wanted to see, places I wanted to go. I started to read, books I had always wanted to read, subjects I had always wanted to study. I spent hours in the library, lost in the pages. I started to write. Words poured out of me like a dam had broken. Memories, thoughts, feelings, things I had never said, things I had never dared to say. I wrote about him, about us, about our life together, the good times, The hard times, the love, the loss. I wrote about my children, about their successes, their failures, their strengths, their weaknesses. I wrote about myself, about my hopes, my fears, my regrets. I wrote until my hand ached, until my eyes burned, until the words filled the pages, until my story was told. One afternoon, my son came to visit. He sat on the edge of my bed. He looked tired, worried. He told me about his job, about his children, about his problems. He talked for a long time, expecting me to listen, to offer comfort, to soothe his worries. I let him talk. I nodded, I smiled, but I said nothing. When he was finished, he looked at me expectantly. "So, Mom," he said, "what do you think?" I looked at him, at his tired face, his worried eyes, and I realized something. He didn't see me, not really. He saw a mother, a grandmother, a support system, but he didn't see the woman I was, the woman I had always been, the woman I was finally becoming again. I stood up, I walked to my desk, I opened the top drawer, I took out a letter, sealed, addressed to him. I handed it to him. He looked at it, confused. "What's this, Mom?" "Read it," I said. He opened the letter, his eyes scanned the page, his face paled. He looked up at me, his voice trembling. You're selling the house," I nodded. "But where will you go?" "I'm going away," I said. "I'm going to see the world. I'm going to live my life for myself." He stared at me, speechless. I picked up my purse. I walked to the door. "Mom," he said, his voice pleading. "Please don't do this." I turned to face him. "I should have spoken at his service," I said. I wasn't angry, just resolved. Years of silence finally broken. My only regret is I didn't speak sooner. Now I'm living for us both.